Hi everybody. Well, if it's a Saturday in late July, it means we're canning green beans. So I'm not doing a cook with me, I'm doing a can with me. I'm going to show you how I can my 0 point quart jars of green beans and how this is part of the process that I do to stock my shelves for the winter. So I am got my canning apron on, and I am see, isn't that cool? Anyway, I'm canning green beans today, and I'll probably be canning green beans tonight and tomorrow. I got 1 bushel of green beans that I have to put up. I'm throwing some away because they've been sitting in the apartment here for a couple days, and some of them toward the bottom are kind of getting mushy, so I don't use those. But I'm going to show you how I can green beans. So hang on, this is fun stuff. And this is the little contraption I have been waiting on. I have no idea where the one that I own is. So now if I ever find it, I have two. But I need this for my pressure canner so I can finish canning my green beans, or start canning my green beans. So this little baby's going to be getting a workout today. This is the weight that I put on the pressure canner that helps build up the pressure in the canner so that everything is botulism free. So stay tuned. I'll show you the process later. Okay, let me show you the utensils that we need. Okay, first of all, I've got a pot of water that I'm starting to boil here. I've got 3 quarts of you can see how old my canner is, and this is that little part I was waiting on. That will go on top of here eventually. But it's my canner. I've got 3 quarts of water in here warming up. I'm not bringing it to a boil yet because too much of a difference in temperature can crack the jars. So, and I've got my canning lids. Back when I first started canning years ago, we had to, like, really heat these up. Now the new lids we don't have to heat up at all. I have a dish of vinegar here. I've got my jar lifters. That's what I get the jars in and out of the canner with. I have my canning tool, which helps me get air bubbles out of the jars. Of course, my handy dandy Weight Watchers measuring spoon there. That's a cup size. And then these are the beans I cut up last night. Now my canner holds 7 quart jars. I'm using the wide mouths. For vegetables, I tend to like the wide mouths a little bit better. And then I've got canning salt. And do not use iodized salt in your jars because it will make the water very cloudy. So, and I just pour some canning salt in here. I have my teaspoon. In every quart jar, I am going to put a teaspoon of salt. Now, they say you don't have to. This acts only as, a preservative. There's not enough in here to really flavor it. If I were doing a pint jar, I would put a half a teaspoon of salt in. So I just dump that on top of every jar, teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to wait for my water to boil, and then I will fill these jars. Now, you have to leave what we call head space in the jars so that when you are pressure canning these, the water has room to expand. So in this one, I have to leave a head space of 1 inch. As you can see, if I put my canning tool here, and my beans are measuring right about 1 inch, and I'll push these down a little bit more when I get it in. So if I get much, give or take a little bit, but you don't want a whole lot more than 1 inch in here. So I will adjust this as I go. But this is a really cool tool. I just bought this at Walmart. It came with my funnel that I just put on there, and that's how I get the water in the jars. So I have actually a couple different funnels. I have one that's a little bit better for wide mouth jars. Let me grab that one. Hang on. Don't mind my messy kitchen. I'm packing. That one fits a little bit better. This one, it came with another part attached to that was supposed to help you measure a little bit better. I didn't find it that useful, so I took it off. This works just fine. Also, one way to look, 1 inch is usually right about where this first ring hits. So So if you don't have one of these tools, that's one way to look at it. All right, my water's not quite ready. I'll be back after I get these all done. While I'm waiting for the water to boil, I wanted to tell you what I use the vinegar for. So after I'm done filling the jars and before I put the lid on, I will dump the paper towel, excuse me, I was gonna sneeze, into the vinegar, and then I'll wipe the rim of the jar. So I'll moisten that with vinegar, and then I will just take it and I will wipe around the rim here of the jar. That just makes sure that there aren't any salt particles or any food particles there, so you get a really good seal on the jar. And then I'll cap it, put the lid on it. Now I'm not going to use all this vinegar, so after I'm done capping all the jars and have them all in the canner, I just dump the rest of this vinegar in the canner. It helps keep the water fresh, and it also eliminates making rings inside the canner. So it just keeps the inside of the canner a little bit fresher. That's what I use the vinegar for. So I'll be back. My water is almost boiling, and I'll show you as well as I can without a tripod what I'm doing. Okay, my water is boiling, or just about boiling. It's hot enough to put in here. So I'm going to dip that in, and I'm just going to start filling these jars with water. I do this kind of slowly because worst thing in the world is to have hot water overflow on you. And I get it almost there to that line. Set that aside, and then while I still have the funnel on, I'll go around and just move my tool in along the sides to remove any air bubbles. Now I do a raw pack on my vegetables. Some people cook the beans before they can them. I don't do that. I just do a raw pack. Then I'm going to turn this around, and then I'm going to take the other end and just push my beans down. And I'm going to measure it, and it's just about perfect. Put that over here now, as I've done that. So I'm going to take the vinegar now. I just dip the tip of that, and I'm going to go all around here with the vinegar. The vinegar does not seep into the beans. It doesn't affect anything. It moistens the rim so it gets a really good seal. And then I'm going to just cap this, and then I'll move it over into my canner. Now I always use the jar lifters because that water in the canner is warm. Alright, one jar done, and I'm going to repeat the process on this next one. So I'll be back after I have my canner filled, and I'll show you that. Okay, before I continue, I wanted to tell you that as you put these rings on, you just want to tighten them finger tight. You don't want to really ram it on there. And then you just put the jar lifters on, and you lift it over to the canner. I'll be back in a second. Alright, I have all 7 of my jars filled, capped, and they're in the canner. The water was already starting to get warm. I've turned my heat up to high, and now I am going to put the lid on. Just one second. Okay, I have the canner lid on. My heat is turned up to high, and now what I'm going to wait for is for the water in the canner to come up to boiling, and then there will be a steam stream come out of this little thing right here. And I'm going to let the steam flow for 10 minutes before I'll put my timer on, and I'll time it for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, then I will put the regulator on. Or some people call this the petcock. But and then once this is on, it starts building up pressure, and I will watch this until it gets to 11 pounds. Once it reaches 11 pounds, I will start timing for 25 minutes. And I stay and watch it for a while. I babysit the canner for a little bit because I will consistently, gradually turn down the heat to maintain that pressure. You don't want it to get up over into this range because see that caution? That means, you know, something's going to blow. Although this canner has safety features on it, if that would happen, you know, this thing would blow out first. which would release the steam, so you wouldn't really hurt anything. People are afraid of pressure canning for that reason. I found pressure canning to be really, really simple. So anyway, now I'm, like I said, my heat is on high, and I'm just going to wait now. I'm going to go sit down in the other room, and I'll be able to hear it when it starts expressing steam. And then I'll be back to show you what it looks like. Okay, I don't know if you can see this stream of steam that's coming out here. I don't want to get too close to it because it's hot. So that started to, now I'm going to time this for 10 minutes because the canner has to breathe some of that steam out for 10 minutes so it can build up the proper pressure. So I'm just going to go up here and set my timer. For 10 minutes. And when that's done, I will cap it and I'll be back then. Okay, this has been steaming now for almost 10 minutes. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to turn my timer off, and I want you to see what happens here. I'm going to put this on top of here, and my lock is already up, which means the canner cannot open unless the pressure drops. So watch my gauge now. And it's going to start going up immediately. Now, see, it's already starting to go up a little bit. As soon as it gets up, to maybe 3 or 4 pounds of pressure, I'm going to start reducing the heat because I know at the high heat it's going to get up very, very quickly to that 11 pounds of pressure. But I have found, at least with my canner, it maintains the heat a little bit better if I turn it down a little bit along the way. I'm not going to turn it down much. So it's up to almost 2 pounds now. But you can see it starts going up very quickly. Once it hits 11 pounds of pressure, you never ever want it to go below that 11 pounds of pressure. If it does, you have to start all over again. You have to bring it back up to 11 pounds and start timing all over again. So if you decide to do this, don't let it get below the pressure it's supposed to be at. It can go above. I mean, I have it usually on my canner. It likes to sit, at maybe 12 or 13 pounds of pressure, and that's okay. You can go above. I wouldn't go up to 18 or 19 pounds, but you can kind of keep it anywhere in between that 11 and 15 pounds of pressure, and it's not going to harm anything. All right, so it's up to 3 pounds now. I'm going to turn it down just slightly. So it's going to go up. The pressure is going to start rising a little bit more slowly now. So it might even fall back a little bit. So I typically let it get up to about 12 before I turn it down a little bit, and then it will fall down to 11 pounds of pressure, which is that first mark right after the 10 on my gauge. You cannot pressure can in an Instant Pot. Don't be fooled into thinking you can. It's not safe. You can't fit the jars in well. So this is my process. I'll be back when it gets up to the pressure and show you the process from there. Alright, I want to show you. This now has reached 11 pounds of pressure. So I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes. 25 minutes and hit start. Now, you can see that the pressure is still going up. So I'm going to just wait a few minutes, and then I'm going to reduce the heat again. From this point on, I'm going to be watching this canner very carefully so the pressure doesn't get too high. Alright, I just lowered the heat just a tad. I'm going to watch because the pressure should start falling. So I will be back after my 25 minutes is up and show you what I do from there on. Okay, my 25 minutes is up. I'm going to turn off my timer, and you can see my gauge is right between 12 and 13 pounds. I'm going to turn the heat off. So my heat is off. The pressure will start going down. At this point, do not touch the canner. You need to wait until this gauge goes all the way down to 0. Just like you would on an Instant Pot, you want to return get all the pressure out of there. At the end, this lock mechanism will go down when that happens also. At that point, I will take the pet cap off, or the regulator off, and take the lid off, and I still will not take the jars out. So after the pressure goes down, I'll be back to show you what I do. But this process takes a while. It's probably as long, if not longer, than the actual canning process for the green beans. So I will be back later. Okay, the canner pressure has dropped now to 0. You can see the lock is down, and I am going to remove the regulator. There's absolutely no pressure in there. And now I'm going to take the lid off. So hang on just okay, the lid is off. And I should have mentioned, always open the lid away from you, so that any steam escapes away from you. Now I'm going to set my time. I'm going to leave the jars in here for another 5 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. And that just gives air time to circulate within the jars and everything, and so they're not so totally shocked by their new environment outside of the canner. And I'll be back in a minute. Alright, let's get these out of here. There's no rhyme or reason on how to get these out. Just be careful not to squeeze that ring. And I'm just... Oh, it popped already. Did you hear that? That's the best sound in the world to a canner, as soon as it hit the cold air. Alright, so let's get another one out. And I'm just lifting it over here. I have a towel that I folded over on the counter. So those will start popping pretty soon. Sometimes they pop right inside the canner before I get them out. Don't those look pretty? Now I'm told that a bushel, which is 28 pounds, should give you 14 jars. Usually the ratio is 2 pounds of beans per jar. I probably don't have 2 pounds in that. You can see how there's going to be some floating here. So, and on this one too. I like to give the beans space, and especially since it's just me really basically eating these now, I'm not too concerned about packing everything in there really well. So, but these will seal up, and if I get 14 jars, and I normally get between, I think, 15 and 16 jars of beans per bushel. I normally do 3 to 4 bushels of green beans, so or sometimes more. I like to have a whole year's worth stocked up, which, you know, if I eat green beans twice a week, that would be, let's see my mess here, that would be 104 jars. I think the last year that I canned green beans, I did like 114 jars. So that was a pretty good bean harvest that year. Now the beans that I get are organically grown. There are no preservatives on these, and they just taste really well. Matter of fact, my daughter even asked me to send her some because she said anymore she doesn't like the taste of the beans she gets in the store in the cans. And yeah, I put a little bit of money up front on this, but once my shelves are stocked, I don't grocery shop during the winter. So that's awesome. All right, I will be back. I wanted to show you one more thing. I'm going out tonight. Our local church has their festival again tonight. So I'm going to work on these when I get home. I have 1 colander full of beans in the refrigerator, and I want to keep these kind of cold while I'm gone. So I'm just filling up the sink with water, and I've got some ice cubes on top, and I will pick over these and stamp them when I get back. So we'll see. Doesn't look like I've made much of a dent in this at all. So. Well, while I was waiting for the pressure to drop in the canner, I went and got my shower, and I'm going to get ready to go out tonight with some friends. And I don't ever leave the canner while I have the heat on, though. It's after I turn the canner off, then I'll go and do other things. So, I mean, I was snapping other beans while I was in the kitchen so I could keep an eye on the canner. But it's not a good thing to, you can't just walk away from it. Let me just say that. So when you do your beans, or can anything, especially when you pressure can, you kind of have to just kind of babysit it, and it'll work out fine. So, you know, I don't think anybody should be afraid of it. And it's a great way to know exactly what nutrients you're getting, and that's the one thing I love about canning, is I know exactly what's in that jar. There's nothing in there but water, beans, and a little bit of salt. So, and I wouldn't have to use the salt. Now, I told you it was a preservative. Mostly they put the salt in there to maintain the color. Now, these jars of beans, some people will tell you throw them out if you don't use them after a year. If you want to do that, that's fine, but I want to tell you, we have eaten beans that I've canned that are 3 years old, and they're just fine. As long as the seal's good, they're still good. So, I'm not saying that's right for you. You know, you follow your own instinct, but if you happen to have anything left over at the end of the year, which, you know, I don't all the time, but I've had them, especially cherries too. I've canned cherries, and I haven't used them all in 2 or 3 years, and they were still good. So, I mean, if you open it up and you get a good seal and they smell right, they're okay. So, as you can see, it's not a difficult process. It's time consuming because you got to snap the beans. Now, this is the first year I have done this without Joe. Usually we had a process where he would snap the beans. As he got them cut, I would fill the jars and get the canner going. So it's taking me longer now to do this because I don't have him helping me. And I offered my friends to come over and help me, but no one said, yeah, sure, I'll come over and snap beans for you. So anyway, I just want to let you know it's not a hard process, and I do a lot of canning throughout the year. If it's a vegetable, it's got to be pressure canned. Tomatoes don't necessarily have to be pressure canned. I typically don't. I just water bathe them, which is a different process. And when I get to that point, this later in the year when the tomatoes come in, I'll show you that. But if you can vegetables, they have to be pressure canned because they're low acid. Next up, after I get these beans done, are pickles, and I'll show you that. And then I'm going to make the cowboy candy too, and I'll show you that when I get to that. But I just love the way my pantry looks when I'm all done for the summer. As far as canning the vegetables, I typically don't start canning soups until the end of summer or beginning of fall. But I like to have enough soups in my pantry. Oh, I just heard another one pop. I'd like to have enough soups in my pantry so I can have 1 or 2 cans of soup every week. Because that's a nice hearty meal. You throw, a rotisserie chicken in with some chicken broth, you got dinner. So, and again, by canning and freezing your own stuff, you know exactly what's in it. So, all right, well, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and share this. And if you have any questions, please ask. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. But happy canning!